Network. Flex on everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Flex Network, brought to you by Thrive Fantasy. I'm your host, Flex Shane. You can follow me on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. I'm joined by the GOAT of Season Long. You guys know him as Season Long Says. I know him as at Alan Seslowski. Al, how you doing, brother?
Good morning, Shane. We just had a incredibly long night, didn't we? You were there monitoring my home league draft, which is a competitive one. So
Yes.
I think that's what we're going to be talking about today, aren't we?
Yeah, we are going to go through a real live draft. It was your first of the year, I believe, right, Al?
I've done
first season long draft.
No, I did the Beat Chris List League over the summer.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
That's a high stakes entry league. And then, Dynasty. I've done a bunch of Dynasty stuff. But redraft league. I'm not in too many, right? Because I have another one coming up and after that. So, and then our
cool.
Banana Hammock one as well.
Yes, that's exciting. But okay, so before we get into the draft, Al, have you ever tried Thrive Fantasy before?
Oh yeah, no, I see that they're sponsoring this podcast, which is awesome. Yeah, Thrive is it's one of those prop betting sites, but I think it stands out. It's one of the best that I've played. I still have an account with them, so I'm playing for NBA right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. So basically, what Thrive Fantasy is. So right now, everybody go to your app store, search Thrive Fantasy, download it now, and when you sign up, make sure you use the promo code FLEX. Because when you deposit at least $20 or more on your first deposit, they will go and they will match $20. I think what's really cool is, to your point, like there's NBA games right now, there's MLB, but most importantly, what I really care about is there's NFL games, and those NFL games are up live now. What's really cool is it's not just choosing a single prop. The game specifically is going through and say, for example, we wanted to choose the NFL game. You go through, I like the week 1 NFL Sunday Rush contest. You can enter for as little as $5, and you go through and you've got a choice of 20 players. You choose 10 props that you like. So, for example, if you like Deshaun Watson to throw, for example, over or under 265 yards, you can choose that prop. You can go either over or under. But what's really cool, Al, is there's a point amount associated with each decision. So you can take a risky bet and gain more points, or a little bit more conservative and gain fewer points, but you're going to lock those points in the bank. So go now, search the App Store, Thrive Fantasy. Make sure you use the promo code FLEX when you sign up. And for your first $20 deposit or more, they will go and they will match $20. So do it now.
It's a fun game just to when you're sitting on your couch. The app works really well on your phone, and you get a little extra sweat going. So I play it each week.
I love it.
So
look, I mean, it's going to be something we're going to be talking about all season. Player props are so much fun, and it's just another element that we talk about. Make football more fun. Al, I'm not going to bury the lead here.
All right.
We're going to get into your draft. Before we do it, our plan right now is we're going to evaluate high level our favorite picks on a team, our least favorite picks on a team. We'll give an overall grade. But before we do that, let the people know what the format was for this draft.
Oh yeah, no. So my this home league draft is pretty competitive. I know usually when you say home league or work league, it just kind of it usually means like casual, but these are some real players in this league.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 12-team league with super flex, 3 receivers, and a regular flex. So, and the tight end also is double PPR. So I love it. Yeah, I mean, we've tried 1.5 PPR in this league, but it didn't really move the needle. It's the double PPR, which you'll see change the draft board dramatically, because there really is no wrong way to build a team. In a year of running back inflation, Shane, where everyone's going running back crazy, you could start building with a quarterback. You could take one of the premium tight ends in the first round, or if you want, you have to have 3 good receivers. So it's not indefensible to take Michael Thomas or Devontae Adams in the first round.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing right now. So I'm trying to transition my brain away from best ball, where you really need to hammer those running backs early, because you can just go and go tons of wide receivers to finish up your draft, and you don't have to pick and choose. But in your season-long leagues, you need to start these guys every single week, meaning that you need to make that choice. And if you're rocking a guy like Julio or Devontae Adams as like a lock starter every single week, it makes just one last decision for you. So it's kind of different, but let's not bury the lead. Let's go check out this draft. So
if somebody wants to follow along, the draft board is posted on my Twitter at Alan Zaslowski, and you're going to put it up on the board for those watching the visual cast. But if you're listening on the audio cast and just want to take a peek at the board at Alan Zaslowski, just click on the sleeper link and it'll bring you right to the draft board. So do you want to just go team by team here, go best pick, worst pick, or do you want to take like a little bit more of a strategy 10,000 foot view first?
Okay, well, let's take a little bit of a 10,000 foot view. So first and foremost, this
once you get rid of us on the screen so we can see the board completely.
Oh yeah, I love that. There you go. We can see our faces. Come on now. You guys have seen our faces. All right. So first and foremost, I think what's really cool is when you get away from that traditional 1 QB regular tight end, it mixes shit up right away. Right off the bat, pick 1.3, the lovely wife of yours chose Patrick Mahomes, which how can you argue that pick in a super flex league? Of course, right after that goes Lamar Jackson. And then 1.9, George Kittle, 1.10, Travis Kelce. So right off the bat, it just throws everything for a loop, which I love.
Yeah, what happens in super flex drafts, and again, just talking about it from a strategy point, like the guy whoever's picking first has a decision to make because there's no wrong pick here. Like, are you taking Christian McCaffrey, you're taking the QB that you like, and there's no wrong pick. It's just like, how do I want to build that team? And I looked back to this same league, Superflex last year. I had the first pick, and I did the same thing. I took a running back. It's even though Patrick Mahomes is probably the better pick, than one of the running backs. It's just easier to build a team. You could get Ben Roethlisberger and Matthew Stafford later. And I think that's what a lot of these teams did. And again, with double PPR, I know it feels icky to take a tight end in the first round, but if Travis Kelce ends up with 85 catches, which I think he had more than that last year, that's 170, like Michael Thomas getting 170 catches. I mean, these guys are first round picks in this format.
100%. I mean, that 2 points per reception for tight ends it's honestly game changing. And I mean, the geek, he was picking at the 110, chose Travis Kelce, and
he got lucky. He got lucky because the guy before him too. Yeah, the guy before him.
Well, he was pretty on brand. You know what? Let's get right to it. Let's talk about Chiefs. So the geek, of course, at DFS Army. Let's talk about his draft real quick, and I'm going to talk about my favorite pick of his. And I'm going to go.
If you're looking on the board and you're not familiar with the geek, he has picked 10 in this, and he uses the name Chief ST. So
that's right. Yes.
Fire away. Give him his. Let's do it like this. Like you said, let's go best pick, worst pick, and then draft grade, or you could say like percentage chance to make the playoffs. You could do something.
Okay,
like that.
So I'm gonna look. I'm gonna go chalk here. I'm gonna say his best pick is Travis Kelce. I think that to your point, it's a little bit tough sometimes to stomach grabbing that tight end early, but he has the cojones, and that's I want to win my league type of pick. But I'm just real quick. I know I'm not supposed to, but Austin Eckler I love. DJ Chark I love. His worst pick, AJ Green at 8.3.
Yeah.
To me, I don't get that.
We're in agreement there. He actually, and what makes it a bad pick is not, listen, AJ Green can come back and be fine, but he took him ahead of his teammate Tyler Boyd. And, he passed on DeAndre Swift in the 8th round of a super flex. So we gave him a lot of grief in that. So that's his worst pick. So what do you think? What do you give him his chance to make the playoffs?
I think he's got a pretty good chance. When he's riding guys like Austin Eckler in a PPR league and Travis Kelce in a 2-point tight end, I give him probably an 85% chance, assuming obviously health. I think he's got a very good chance of making the playoffs with those courses. All
right, so let's just do this in reverse order then. We'll start with the team 12, Casanova. He started off he took Julio Jones in the first round, which defies ADP. But you know what? You talked about it earlier that Julio's a set it and forget it receiver, and that's what you want in these 3 receiver leagues. You don't want to have to make these impossible Sterling Shepard or Paris Campbell. Do I start Brandon Ayuk or Jalen Reagor? You don't want those decisions because you're always going to get it wrong. So start rocking yourself with a wide receiver that you're going to put in there it eliminates a lot of headaches.
You're right, but I mean, to be honest, I would still rather lock in one of those stud RBs like a Joe Mixon who went later. I would even go Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake. Like, I know Drake, he fell a little bit because of the boot, but I still want one of those workhorse running backs before Julio because, I mean, you go down the list and in the 4th round, you got Mike Evans. Now, obviously, hindsight's 20/20, but I would have much rather rocked a stud running back as my RB1, like a Joe Mixon. To me, it would have an auto call with Joe Mixon. and then
right.
to go in.
He passed on CEH too.
Oh yeah. So to me, I don't love it. But he's got a pretty solid core. He's got Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, but overall, man, I'm not super comfortable with this team. I think it's probably, as we go through, it's going to be one of the bottom teams. But Russell Wilson can't go wrong. I mean,
no, I love it, Shane. Go,
Chris Carson.
Drill him. He
Carson's
deserves
got
it.
the hip.
Casanova deserves your venom. He deserves to be punished by you verbally.
Carson's got the hip. Carlos Hyde apparently is going to be splitting carries with him. Devin Singletary, who's the RB2 in that offense behind Zach Moss with the premium. I don't love this team. He could have done it a lot better. I would have felt a lot more comfortable if he was rocking one of those stud running backs. So
throw our faces back up on the screen. I want to see you as you're pouring the venom. There you go.
Go.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Oh, you are brutal. I love it.
So
it's an honest evaluation based on how
I don't love it. And I think he derailed his entire draft by going Julio Jones. And I hate to say that because Julio's so good. I'm getting him more and more in my leagues as I'm picking around the end, but not as my workhorse, not as my first overall pick. I can't do it. I won't do it. I'm sorry.
All right. So you give him a what? A through F. Give him a grade.
C+.
All right, and then what do you? Lastly, he took Keenan Allen in the 6th round. Normally, I would have panned that pick, but we recently put out a video that praising Keenan Allen in the 6th round, a total reverse nutless move by me. But I am in on Keenan Allen as a 6th round pick, so I will say that is his best pick. Worst pick is obviously Julio not because he's a bad player, but because it's bad value. Passing on CEH, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon.
Absolutely,
right,
absolutely.
Moving on.
Okay, so then DJ Soma.
Actually. Yeah, we're gonna go. That's fine. DJ Soma. So it's my friend Anthony. He's one of these guys that normally studies, and this time he just picked up like a cheat sheet and just walked in, and he knows what he's doing. But this was he tried to play like a little possum, and he ends up with a mega monster start, huh?
Oh, mama! I love this team. So
he starts off with that. Yeah, DJ Soma at 11 and at the 11 and 13 picks, 11 and 14 starts Dalvin and then CEH gets gifted to him in the 2nd round.
So sick. I love it. That's a perfect start. That's how you want to start. If you're at the end of your draft, that's kind of what makes it so interesting with these super flexes is that guys like Dalvin Cook, who I've got ranked 4th overall in traditional leagues, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I have the top 8 pick in traditional leagues, falls to the turn. Oh, mama, I love it. I don't love Aaron Rodgers this year, but in the 3rd round, what can you say? Mark Andrews.
Before you go past Aaron Rodgers, who did he pass on? With the next 3 QBs were Matt Ryan, Wentz, and Brady, and Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I mean, so I would have taken Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz above Aaron Rodgers this year.
Right. And what I would have done here is I would have passed on QB one more time, and then I would have said, hey, I'm going to try to get a combination of Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, Ben Roethlisberger. I would have dipped into that tier. I wouldn't have forced the Aaron Rodgers pick.
I totally agree because later on in this draft, because he's close to the turn, he can go bam, quarterback. Exactly. And it puts pressure on the rest of your league on the turn. Plus, it gives you a lot more value. But look, he got Mark Andrews, which I love. And then his wide receiver core, start 3 wide receivers, Court, who I love, A.J. Brown, who I love, Michael Gallup, who I'm definitely starting to warm up on. So I like this team a lot. I'm going to give this probably, just because I don't want to be perfect, we're going to go with an A-. I think this guy's making his playoffs, and I love it. I think he's going to make the playoffs.
And I think that also makes the case why you wait on wide receiver in round 1 and 2 if you can, unless an extreme value falls. We'll be talking about a wide receiver that fell a little too much later on in this draft. But you could put together a trio, a medley of beautifully singing wide receivers in the later rounds.
So
I'm with you.
I'm just going to say real quick. So obviously, like the early picks, I love those picks, but I want to say one of my favorite picks of this entire draft for him is Paris Campbell as a 2nd to last pick. Look, T.Y. Hilton, we know that he's traditionally hurt. We were talking about it before we started recording that Paris Campbell, he was in a car accident this week and he did suffer a concussion. So there's a little bit of a worry there, but he was in the offense last year, right? So it's not like he's a rookie. He doesn't know the offense. Look, this guy's going to be the new star. He's a stud. I'm slowly, well, not slowly, but I'm starting to really love this Indy offense. And as an upside pick, as the last pick of your draft or 2nd to last pick of your draft, I love it. So A-, love his team. We already did the Geeks team.
Yeah,
Patrick,
Before you move on, I was going to do best pick. So best pick for me was Ronald Jones for this team in the late 9th round. Yep. And we talked about Aaron Rodgers not being my favorite pick. We did. So let's move over to Patrick Ryan, who picked out of the 9 slot. And first and foremost, taking Kittle over Kelce. He gave actually a pretty good explanation. He thought that the San Francisco 49ers losing the Super Bowl is a little bit extra motivation, whereas he was predicting almost a regression for the Chiefs offense, having already done it. And no one's ever really brought that angle into it. And it could be total hogwash. Who knows? But you know what? It's very difficult, like to have a repeat champion. I could see a situation where that actually kind of plays out. And maybe Travis Kelce, who's already on the wrong side of 30, doesn't have the kind of season. I mean, he's got to fall off at some point. He's had multiple surgeries, so maybe I bashed him a little too hard. He went George Kittle in the first round in a double PPR.
Look, I would have taken probably Travis Kelce over him. I understand it. I get it. But when you're talking about a Super Bowl hangover, it's typically the team that loses, not the team that wins. Kansas City is such an electric offense, but there's so many options. So we know that Travis Kelce is going to be a staple of that offense, but maybe he's going to have a few down weeks. It's so very close. Frankly, honestly, San Francisco, the top passing player in that offense is George Kittle. So you can't argue it. It's close. I probably would have done Kelce.
He paired him with Jimmy Garoppolo too, which is nice. So, he did, stacking, stacking usually we associate with a with a best ball or tournament DFS type of strategy, but I think it's an underrated strategy in season long and annual leagues. There's been some work done on it, and I have to dig up the study that it actually does leave points on the table if you don't stack. So, and especially when it's a narrow tree like San Francisco, George Kittle is likely to be the target leader in that team. It's I know they're a run heavy team, but it's not 50-50. They're gonna pass the ball quite a few times. He also grabbed Debo there. So quickly, what's his best pick, worst pick, and give him a grade?
Okay, look. So I think his best pick is Juju Smith-Schuster in the 6th round as his wide receiver 3. I think Juju fell. People are sleeping on him. His worst pick. I'm having a hard time.
I'm with you, by the way.
Maybe yeah. Okay, so worst pick, I feel like he reached a little bit for Darrington Evans. Bryce Love, I could see. Darrington Evans, barring
an 14th injury, round, man. 14th round.
Look, I'm nitpicking. Fine, Jarrett Stidham at 16th overall. Like Jarrett Stidham, he should be on your waiver wire. Cam Newton is practicing with the starters. Cam's a starter of that team. You shouldn't be drafting a backup quarterback in these leagues. I know, I get it, super flex. Don't do it. I'm nitpicking because look, I really love the start of his draft. I really love it. And hey, listen, you know what? I'm kind of regretting a little bit because in our Banana Hammock Boys League, we got to choose our draft slot, and I chose the 1.3 to get early on in the draft. But the more I'm looking at it, man, in these super flex leagues, you kind of want the turn at the end because you're getting some studs. George Kittle, Joe Mixon, Kenny Golladay, Matt Ryan, Tyler Lockett, Juju Smith-Schuster. I like his team, man. I'm going to give it an A.
All right. Cool.
A minus. We can't give it an A yet.
So now Team Luca is the father-daughter team. All right. Okay. So they're longtime residents of this league. They've been in there since pretty close to the beginning, I think, if not the beginning. Okay. And they always come correct. They started the draft. Alvin Kamara. I love that. I almost took Kamara. I picked at 1-6. I almost took Kamara there. He dropped to the 8th pick. Come back now. This is where it got curious. It's not a wrong answer, but they passed on Davante Adams with this high floor, high ceiling for the nuclear option of Tyreek Hill. Just start there for a second before we read down their draft. Do you have a definitive take on Adams over Hill or Hill over Adams, or is it just either one is defensible for you?
No, it's you got to go Davante Adams. You got to do it. Look, I know that last year he struggled a little bit with injuries, but if you're going back through the course of his career, Davante Adams has been pretty healthy. Tyreek Hill, he's dealing with the hamstring issue right now. And we just talked about it with Travis Kelce. There's so many good options in that offense. Tyreek Hill's going to get fed. He's going to get his, but we've seen it. If he doesn't get fed, if he doesn't get that long bomb in a game, he could put up a less than desirable score. Whereas Davante Adams is pretty much, you can set your watch to that score. Davante Adams, I think realistically can lead the league this year in touchdowns for wide receivers. I think you got to go Davante Adams in this pick.
So going down Team Lucas team, my favorite pick is Marquise Brown in the 7th. You and I both think that he should be a 5th-round pick. This kind of in Superflex is a 5th-round pick, but more or less, I mean, Brown went ahead of guys like Devontae Parker, Gallup, which we agree with. So that's my favorite pick, along with DeAndre Swift in the 8th. And I would say my least favorite pick, again, this is nitpicking because I don't even think I'll be right about it, but passing on Devontae Adams for Tyreek Hill. And then one other move that could work out in their favor, but I probably would not have done, is they went super early on Drew Brees in the 3rd round in a super flex. So it's not like, and they passed on our guy, Josh Allen, and all the other ones that they passed on, I can see it, but Josh Allen just has already proven he could be a QB1 overall in the last 6 weeks of his 2018 season, along with just having an immensely high floor. And the Saints, when they get on the goal line, they sometimes take Drew Brees out. They don't throw it 35. Yeah, they don't throw it 35 times a game anymore, Shane. They can go to a complete running format and have Brees throw it 12 to 15 times. So that would be the worst one. But overall, this team looks good to me, Shane. Solid B plus, teetering on A for me. I think they're going to make the playoffs.
I think B. I think that Drew Brees pick was a reach. Todd Gurley's a little bit worrisome. I love the DeAndre Swift pick. I think the Swift pick in the 8th round, 8.5, was probably one of my favorite picks of them. I think, look, Matt Patricia was talking about just this week how, hey, he loves to have a running back combo in the backfield. He was talking about that, which drives you nuts. But look, the cream rises to the top. DeAndre Swift, he's a special player. I think he's going to be the RB1 in that offense, at least the 1A. And
we hit him. You take the next one. You take Wicks. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go over the same team. We don't have to go over the same team twice,
Yeah, of course. Okay, so Mr. Wink, Derrick Henry, we love the big dog. We love him.
Wink was on the Zoom call with you last night. He was.
Yes, he was. We were chatting. We were talking a lot of shit together, which I loved. Which actually, I don't think we mentioned it, but you invited me to your Zoom call when you guys were live drafting. So it's really nice. It's fun. But I just got to talk shit and there's no stress. It was fantastic. But look, okay, he started off pretty sick with Devontae Adams in the 2nd round. Devontae Adams was a gift. Carson Wentz, I'm warming up on. Again, Evan Ingram. He got Evan Ingram at 5.7, which I'm going to say was my favorite pick of his team. And look, he has injuries. We get it. I get it. But if this dude is healthy, man, in a 2-point PPR league, tight end premium in this 5th round, I love it. It's pretty solid. His 2nd QB, Kirk Cousins, worries me a little bit, but he went nuclear with Will Fuller and McCole Hardman.
So
I give him a solid B plus.
Yeah, I just want on that Will Fuller pick. So I picked right before him at 7.6. I had Will Fuller all lined up in my sights, and I passed because of the Superflex format, where I ended up taking my 2nd quarterback, Baker Mayfield. So I knew if I passed on Will, to me, that's his best pick in the 7th round. And Wink follows, our podcast. He follows the Flex Network. He follows DFS Army. So I knew that wasn't coming back to me. I have him in so many places, but this being one of those leagues that really means so much to me, I think I'm going to learn to live to regret that. I'm going to give that to him as his best pick. What do you think is Wink's worst pick?
Wink's worst pick. I'm trying to scope it out here. I mean,
when I say worst pick, I mean it's bad value.
My least favorite one, probably Kirk Cousins. When guys like Teddy Bridgewater are on the board, Ryan Tannehill, I probably would have gone Ryan Tannehill, who somebody else got.
I got him. Yeah I like Cousins because I think Cousins is a high floor pick with job security, and as your QB2, I think that's what you want in a super flex. You don't need upside. You just want floor with job security.
That's true. And you know what? Looking at it again, he's got Adam Thielen, so he went for the stack again. I don't hate it. I'm assuming that if he had, all things being equal, he probably went Cousins just to get the stack. So I'm cool with it. I think B plus. I like his team. And we're going to skip your team. We're going to do your team last, Al. Sorry.
Oh, you want to crush my team last? Okay, so Bob Styles, that's a co-managed team, which, by the way, how do you feel about co-managed team? I hate co-managing. I like to make my own decisions.
Yeah, look, I don't get it. It's like, what are you going to say?
But these guys do work well together. They've been one of the better teams in the league for a better part of a half decade in this league already.
If you're more of a casual type player, or on the alternative, if you're degenerate and you've got 50 teams, obviously I'm using hyperbole there, but if you're degenerate and you've got a lot of teams, well, then maybe it's a little bit easier to have this. But to me, it seems like a lot of work. I don't hate it, but it's just, different strokes for different folks, right? As they say.
Yeah. So let me roll it down, and then then you can comment. So they did something that you and I have been too afraid to do in most of these drafts is take a wide receiver, which very early. They went with Michael Thomas with the 5th overall pick. Now, you and I have documented many times on this podcast that it's not that we don't like Michael Thomas. Yep. It's just that the opportunity cost of foregoing one of the workhorse running backs is too great for us we feel like we're chasing the whole time. But I think they played it right because it's 3 receivers. So you really do. It's not like best ball. You really need to, as we said before, have those rocks in there. And in Superflex, they played the board perfectly. They knew they weren't going to get shut out of the running back game. And look who comes back to them on the wrap is Josh Jacobs, who you and I both think could easily be defended as a 10th overall, 11th overall pick in single QB leagues.
Yep, I agree. And look, he got Leonard Fournette, and I'm a Leonard Fournette apologist. I'm just gonna come out and say it. But in the 4th round, it's not bad value. He's going in the 4th round in traditional drafts.
And did you hear what Byron said on the radio the other day?
Yeah, about Leonard Fournette? So basically what Byron was saying is that Leonard Fournette is still going to be the lead dog in that offense. However, he's not going to be an absolute workhorse. Other running backs, Devonta Zigbo, Chris Thompson, they're getting their touches, they're getting their looks, and that it just caps the upside.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I jumped in there, but you said it perfectly. You just said normally we draft Leonard Fournette in the 3rd round. I'm just paraphrasing what Byron said. Is that Byron was talking about Byron Lambert of Roster Watch. He said that you draft Leonard Fournette traditionally in the 3rd round, the late 2nd round, hoping he could be a top 5 back. This year, you're taking him in a similar place, like the late 3rd round, maybe the 4th in some leagues. And I think it's a fair price. Like he'll likely be like the 18th best to the 15th best running back. He doesn't really have that top 5 upside anymore.
He's got to be the most polarizing player this offseason. I can't think of a more polarizing player. I like him. If I'm getting him in the 4th round as my RB2, especially, because he went and he got Deshaun Watson, he got Michael Thomas. And if you go in that route and you need, I wouldn't even call it a lifeline, but as an RB2 in the 4th round, I mean, shit, you can't go wrong there. And look, there's a chance that he's going to bust. There's a chance. I don't think it's going to happen.
But what does bust look like? The bust doesn't look like bottom out. It doesn't, it's not like he's not playable, right?
No, a bust would look like, going from 75 receptions to maybe 40 receptions.
I don't think that's a bust. I think that's likely to happen.
You think that's likely to happen?
Him. Yeah, I think that's more or less where with a healthy Chris Thompson, with all those other running back options. I think Leonard Fournette, you can't project him for more than 45 receptions.
People are saying that the Jacksonville Jaguars are tanking. Maybe they are, but I think they like Gardner Minshew. And look, teams, they still want to freaking win NFL games. Leonard Fournette gives them the best opportunity to win. They didn't just pass on 3rd down last year. He caught, I want to say 75% of his receptions last year on 1st or 2nd down, meaning that when Leonard Fournette's on the field, he can catch the ball, he can run the ball, which means I'm not as worried. I think, if there was an over-under of 50 receptions for Leonard Fournette this year, which I think is probably a fair number, I would take the over on that. That's all I'm saying. I think it's a good pick.
Yep. So best pick, worst pick, grade for them, for Team Bob Styles.
This one's kind of tough. I like Deshaun Watson in the 3rd round of the Superflex. I think that's a steal. He's probably typically going in the 2nd round. I like that. My least favorite pick, I'm kind of nitpicking here, but David Montgomery. I'm all out on.
Well,
David
how about
Montgomery.
Leonard Fournette? we just dogged the guy, but you like him.
No, I like it. I look. I'm trying to give you both sides of the argument. I like Leonard Fournette.
Okay, all right.
I think that's a good pick.
Let's not get started. Okay,
yeah, it's not a reach.
So for me,
it's probably David Montgomery. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, so best pick for me, I think you nailed it. Deshaun Watson in the 3rd round. I think that I'm just looking what they passed on. They took Brady in the 5th as their 2nd QB over options like Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford. But you know what? I just got finished saying you want that 2nd QB to be a steady guy. I think that's certainly what Tom Brady represents. And I've actually crossed T.Y. Hilton off my receiver board, but I understand why they took him at 6.8. So I would say the worst pick. It's hard because they did rack up some a murderer's row here. But if I'm nitpicking, by the way, they did grab Raquel Armstead late, so
yes, I see
that's pretty cool. I'm not big on Austin Hooper, but in the 7th round they took let's see who they passed on. Yeah, they passed on Higbee.
No offense, Higbee.
Yeah, I get that, but Higbee is the most underpriced tight end on the board. He should be like a tight end 5 or 6 to me. He went as tight end 10 to me in this draft. Yep. So I would say if I have to nitpick their draft, taking Austin Hooper, passing on Higbee is probably that one, but could pay off. Rock solid B for me. I'm not betting against this team to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't love the T.Y. Hilton pick, so that's probably one of my least favorites.
But who did they take there instead? They could have had, let's see, Steph Diggs, Will Fuller, Marquise Brown. Right. No, I hate that pick now.
Oh, Devontae Parker fell. Ooh, I didn't even realize it.
Yeah,
damn it. I went to the freaking geek. I don't like that. Devontae Parker would have been the pick there.
Bob Styles and Matt Adams, that's your worst pick, T.Y. Hilton. You guys are old school fantasy, and it showed on that pick.
There you go.
All right. The Raisin Warrior had the 4th pick overall. And I guess when you're in the 4th pick, that's almost like the best super flex position, isn't it? Because you don't have to make any decisions. One of the big 4 falls to you.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're not going to go wrong. He got Lamar Jackson as his first overall pick, who, look, he could be the overall #1 player in fantasy football again this year. So how could you possibly go wrong with that?
Let's talk about the obvious. I want you to comment on this. The obvious thing that sticks out to me in his draft was the 4-5 where he went receiver, but he took Kupp and Woods. Is that a good strategy?
No, I don't think. I mean, look, it's not the worst strategy. They are, but look, I don't love taking 2 wide receivers on the same team because you're naturally capping your upside on any given week, right? I mean, there's only so many touchdowns.
Wait a second.
2
receivers on the same team is okay, but when you're having to pay for it, it's not okay. So like if you say you have Odell Beckham at a value in like the 3rd or 4th, and then all of a sudden like Landry falls to like the 9th or 10th, I'm okay with it there. But when you have to do it as your 4 and 5, but we just talked about a moment ago how stacking is good. So how do you square those two things?
Okay, we talk about who did he pass on to take Cooper Kupp. He passed on Allen Robinson. He passed on Amari Cooper. He passed on DJ freaking Moore, who I love this year in PPR leagues. So to me, I would have been way more comfortable with either Allen Robinson or DJ Moore, who it's a coin flip out of those 2 guys for me, over Cooper Kupp. You come back, you get Robert Woods, who, look, last year when they started running more 2 tight end sets, Cooper Kupp out of the slot wasn't a thing, right? That you don't typically have a slot wide receiver when you're running 2 tight end sets. So Robert Woods could get fed. People are talking about that positive mean regression back to for his touchdowns, and I would have been more comfortable with it with just a little bit of a diversity there. That's just me.
Yeah,
I love Cooper Kupp.
Passing on Allen Robinson, who I have as my 7th overall receiver in redraft. I'm looking it up because I want to make sure. I think I have him as 7 overall.
It was a mistake.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Who do you like better in redraft, Allen Robinson or Odell Beckham? Because this was a point of contention last night. In the draft.
I like Allen Robinson. So I've got, just to go back, I got DJ Moore as my number 7 overall. Allen Robinson is my number 9, and Odell Beckham is my number 12.
Okay, so we'll get to my team after, but I took Beckham ahead of Allen Robinson, but I immediately regretted it.
Yeah, I don't love that pick. We'll get your team after, Al. We'll talk about your team after. But look, it's I don't hate. I like Cooper Kupp. I'm higher on Cooper Kupp than Robert Woods. I have him back to back in my rankings, but there were better options. There were better choices at that.
Okay, best pick, worst pick. Give Raisin Warrior grade.
Miles Sanders in the 3rd round, 3.4 overall is probably his best pick. Look, I'm nitpicking here, but I got to say Cooper Kupp is probably his worst pick here, just because of who he passed on at the wide receiver position. That's it. I love Cooper Kupp. It's too early.
For me, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say Kupp was the worst pick, only not because we dislike Cooper Kupp, but mostly it was the lack of targets down the stretch. He was bailed out by touchdown deodorant. If you look at his game log and passing on some of those other studs you just named. And best pick, I'm going to go a little bit deeper down.
All right.
Normally, I'm not a Raheem Mostert guy, but taking him in the 9th round, you're getting a starting running back in one of the best running games. I mean, that could erase a lot of mistakes that if anything goes wrong early on. So, Raisin Warrior. Solid B plus for me.
Solid B plus. I like that. I give him probably about a B plus. It's right around there. The one thing is, I remember this is right around when I joined, but joined into the Zoom call. A screaming value to me at the time was James White, who kept falling. So he got him at the 11th round. I think that's a great value as probably the most reliable running back on that team. You can't really bet on Patriots running backs, but if you're going to bet on anybody, it's James White. I like that pick. So yeah, overall, I quite like that team.
Well, all right. Excellent. All right. So now we are up to the third pick overall, which was Stacy. That was that's actually my wife, who has become. She's won this league a couple times in a row. You know,
you guys are a bunch of schlubs compared to this team.
I know. Well, I'm telling you, she is usually a hardcore studier. This year, with how busy things got for her, she used a lot of our tools. She used the DFS Army Draft Kit. She used a combination of the Ultimate Draft cheat sheet. She used List's rankings over at RotoWire, and then she had them all spread out on this table. It was unbelievable. And Patrick Mahomes fell to her at 3. I mean, you can never complain about that, right? Because usually Barkley, one of the QBs goes at 2, and you're forced to make that Lamar Jackson Barkley decision. Here, it was a no-brainer at Patrick Mahomes at 1, right?
Oh, absolutely. So remember we were talking about how we got to choose our own spots in it's a very competitive Banana Hammock Boys League. It's actually the Roster Watch listener league that we participate in, and it's where we met, which is pretty cool. I chose the 3rd overall pick. And one of the reasons for that is because I want to get one of those other stud QBs or stud running backs in that position. So I was following Stacy's draft very, very carefully.
Oh,
I love it, dude. I freaking love it. If I'm getting Patrick Mahomes, Kenyon Drake, the walking boot, it's a little troublesome.
It's off already.
I'm still cool
it's off.
It.
The boot's off.
The boot is freaking off, guys. Okay, I'm just gonna proliferate a little bit about this team for a sec, Al. Okay, Patrick Mahomes and Cam Newton in the 7th round. I love it. Her starting running backs are Kenyon Drake and Mark Ingram. I don't love Mark Ingram as my RB2, but in the 6th round, especially when she hammered Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, DJ freaking Moore, and then she comes back with her tight end Jared Cook, who, look, we know that the Saints brought in Emmanuel Sanders, but I think Cook's still going to get fed. In the 8th round.
Hey Shane, take a look at Jared Cook's game log. So when after Brees came back from his injury, it's a murderer's row of touchdowns, yards.
Yeah.
And you remember everyone's like, oh, Jared Cook, he's old, but he's one of those guys that has had the reverse career. He sucked in his 20s. He's been great in his 30s. You remember the year before in 2018, he was the tight end 4 with the Raiders in a PPR sense. I mean, Jared Cook has put together 2 seasons of elite production now, and nobody wants him because he's old. He's the other guy I think is mispriced in these drafts along with Higbee. So I'm in on Jared Cook. Especially,
but you know who she came back with just next round? To TJ Hawkinson. He's an absolute Frankenstein of a monster. If he's healthy, watch out. Apparently, he's lighting up practice right now. I love it. To me, this is, and maybe I'm just being biased here, but this is probably my favorite team that's been drafted so far.
Wow, she's gonna love to hear that.
And I'm not even BSing. This is no BS. If I walked away with this team, I would be happy. I'd be very happy.
Yeah, the key is, I think, in these 3 receiver leagues is getting 3 receivers, not only that you feel okay about, that you feel great about, that even if there's a down week. I mean, she got 3 wide receivers that you and I both have in our top 10. We both have Chris Godwin in the 5-6 range. We have Allen Robinson in the 7-9 range, and we have DJ Moore in the top 10. So if you could set those guys, forget it. You have an anchor running back like Kenyon Drake, you'll figure out the second running back. I mean, that's the easiest thing to figure out on the wire of all the positions.
Well, and she's got Tevin Coleman, who I love. She's got Chase Edmonds for the cuff for Kenyon Drake if he gets hurt, which, hell, he might have standalone value every week in himself. She went back. I mean, okay, so the one thing I would say I'm a little bit worried about for her is that QB2. You know, Cam Newton, he's got monster upside, but he also has a lot of downside. The Patriots practice right now. Look, as a Patriots fan, I'm worried, man. I'm a little bit worried this year with this team. So if Cam's the Cam of old,
she did hit up Haskins late. You know, Haskins if he has a little breakout. But see, you and I talked about this before. Like the exact thing that I like to do with my QB2 in Superflex is I don't go upside. I go safe floor. So she passed on Newton for Mayfield, Garoppolo, Roethlisberger, Cousins, Tannehill, all those type of guys. See, I would have waited around and then gone. But even if you go with Newton's the upside play for sure. I could see him being a top 5 QB, but you're right. That's perfectly fine in a 1 QB league. You definitely want a little bit more floor as your second QB in a Superflex.
The reality is, in a competitive league, you're not going to be super strong at every single position. So if she's weak as her QB2, and that's really the only glaring weakness on this team, and that QB2 is Cam Newton, who really does have nuclear upside. He does. You could do a lot freaking worse. So I love this team. I'm giving it an A. Stacey, you nailed it. Nice job.
I'll give her an A, but I think that she'll mismanage the team. Everything will go wrong, and she won't make the playoffs. So
okay, Stacey, when you're setting your lineup, don't ask Al for advice. Ask me for advice. I'll help you out. We'll win this league.
All right. So the next team is Mealy 22. This is Brandon's team. Now he's a player. He's a perennial go deep in the playoffs, and then he's like the Buffalo Bills, and then fails. But you know what? I think he failed again in the championship game. Unfortunately, Geek won this league last year. He got the trophy, but Mealy 22 made it all the way to the finals. No skill of his own. He just happened to have the second pick last year and get Christian McCaffrey. He's a major Giants homer, takes Barkley in the second. Now, this is what I want to ask you about. He took Kyler Murray at 211, super flex. At that point, are you taking Murray in the second and then coming back? He went with Zach Ertz in the third as a double PPR stud. Talk just about the early picks there and how you might have played it different than him. Look, or the same.
I probably wouldn't. First of all, if I was going to take a quarterback there, it would have been Deshaun Watson over Kyler Murray. I've got Deshaun ranked higher. I think there's more upside. I'm more comfortable with Deshaun. But, you know, I'm nitpicking there. I probably wouldn't have gone QB here. I would have liked to wait. He passed on a guy like Miles Sanders. He passed on Chris Godwin. So he really did pass on some elite talents when if he really wanted to get to QB, he could have instead of going Zach Ertz. But look, Zach Ertz on the other hand,
Zach Ertz in a double PPR, man.
He's a reception monster. He may not get all the touchdowns, but he's a reception monster. Who the hell knows what's happening with that Philly wide receiver core right now? We just don't know. Jalen Reagor is going to be a starter. I love Jalen Reagor. You know that I was one of the highest guys.
Does that make you back off Carson Wentz a little bit?
No, because of what he put up with those tight ends last year.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying is they're going to spread the freaking ball around. So to go and have an elite player, if I'm going to get any pass catchers in that offense, I probably want Zach Ertz or Dallas Goedert late. I'm getting a lot of Dallas Goedert as my second tight end in these best ball leagues, and it's a play I'm super comfortable with. So
taking it through real quick though, let me just get through his draft here a little bit. So I love that Cooper in the fourth round. He seems to be going there. That's amazing. And then his late game was really good. So sometimes people get a little bored by the 10th, 11th round. I do not. I think this is where draft can be won. And he put in the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th round, he put together one of the sickest combinations of floor and ceiling that I've seen in any draft. So just looking at his board, he went 11. I'm going to start with pick 11. Crowder, Darius Slayton, Zach Moss, Preston Williams. I mean, those are all of our breakout guys singed with Crowder, who we think is a lock for 80 catches. That piece of his draft, I think, is going to prove to be one of the things that anchors this team no matter what happens.
Yeah, and look, I'm not super high on Stephon Diggs, who we took in the 7th round, but
I like Diggs. But people don't.
A good value.
I understand.
That's a good value.
Nobody likes him. Nobody likes him.
But then you to your point, you got the floor of Jamison Crowder, and you've got the ceiling of Darius Slayton. So, and Zach Moss, you got the RB1 in that offense. Look, potentially Devin Singletary might have more overall touches, but in the 20s where it counts with those touchdowns, Zach Moss is going to be there. And frig, man, it's good upside. But look, I can't get past the fact that he passed on he could have had Chris Godwin, Miles Sanders instead of Kyler Murray, Zach Ertz. I would have been way happy with that start. Happy with that start.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to him, and he's in on Kyler Murray as much as I am. We know that there's some sophomore slump risk, but just adding DeAndre Hopkins to that offense, I know everyone says in the offseason, new teams, changing teams, COVID. But if there's players in this league that don't need a ramp up or that are just professionals, and DeAndre Hopkins would have topped that list for me. I'm giving this team. I'm going to give him a B+ with upside. It's probably too low a grade. It should probably be an A- based on what I just talked about. He traditionally doesn't. His second QB is what's driving me down. He has Philip Rivers, Nick Foles, neither who are guaranteed to finish the season based on performance. So I am going to stick with the B+ here. What do you think?
I'm worried about this team, Al. I'm worried about this team. Amari Cooper, you like him. He's inconsistent. And look, I understand the narrative that there was targets vacated with Randall Cobb leaving. Jason Witten leaving, and that's what that's what CeeDee Lamb is going to be taking. But I don't love it as my wide receiver one. Lev Bell,
Lev
freaking Bell. Frank Gore's outperforming him in camp. There's already he was put off to the side because of his hamstring, and then he tweets out that it wasn't his hamstring. I'm out. I'm out on Bell, man. Cam Akers, I love. I love Cam Akers.
Yeah, that's your guy.
Look, he had I don't love his start, but to your point, I really love his 11th to 14th round picks. So I'm going to give him a B. I'm going to give him a B to a B minus. Fair. It's close.
So you don't think he's making the playoffs then?
I don't.
Or is Barkley?
How many teams make it? 6?
6, yeah. 5 record, 1 points.
He's going to be on the bubble, man. I don't. There's other teams I like better than his. I'm sorry, my friend. But maybe his studs right. Maybe if Kyler explodes this year and Saquon Barkley is just an absolute beast, and that's another thing, man. I get it. Barkley is like a lock first, second overall player in traditional leagues, but he kind of has a murderer's row to start the season. This team worries me, Al. The team worries me, but not as much as the 101. Our boy Dorn. All right,
so the 101, we got 2 teams left. Roger Dorn, who, by the way, that name is based on the character from Major League, the baseball comedy movie with Charlie Sheen. So, yep, that's his real name is Lorne, and he goes by Roger Dorn. Okay. And yes, I mean, you can't screw up the 101 with McCaffrey, but so he did a little bit of a poor man's version of what the three, but he has the 3 reliable receivers, but they're more of the guys that are projection rather than rock solid. So after starting McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, who we all know the troubles with Aaron Jones, but he's still a workhorse running back. DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, and Ridley are his 3 rocks, along with Gronk. And then his QBs, he waited all the way to the 7th round to take Burrow as his QB1, backing it up with Teddy Bridgewater, Tyrod Taylor. I will leave to you to talk about the first half of his draft, and then we'll get into the back end.
I'm sorry, Dorn. I'm sorry, Roger Dorn. Look,
give it to him.
Your best overall pick was Christian McCaffrey.
Oh, that's not a best pick. That's an
that was his best overall pick, and I'm worried about his
what
team.
An insult. What an insult.
Teams, the players that he passed up. Look, Aaron Jones, okay, fine, but I'm worried about AJ Dillon. Not so much that I want to draft AJ Dillon, but I think he just hurts Aaron Jones. That worries me a little bit. DeAndre Hopkins, I'm not going to argue. I like that pick, but DK Metcalf. Calvin Ridley over guys like DJ Moore, Robert Woods, Tyler Lockett, Courtland.
I'm good with the
over
Ridley
DJ Moore.
Pick. No, but what I'm saying is I would have gone in that end cap. I would have gone Ridley Moore and let DK go. But if you listen, there's a DK hive out there, and I think Lauren's one of them. He likes DK Metcalf, and I respect it if DK is your guy. Again, you and I disagree wholeheartedly. We don't even have them in the same tier. Like DJ Moore for us is in the first tier of receivers. Like the bottom.
I have DJ Moore as my 7th overall wide receiver.
That's what I'm saying. We won't be surprised if DJ Moore outproduces Tyreek Hill. We've already talked about that on podcasts. All right, so still a good team overall, but is
it?
All right. Let's try.
Rob Gronkowski, who is going to be a situational tight end.
How about
this? Guys like Hunter Henry.
It's an upside.
Joe Burrow as his QB1 in a super flex league. J.K. Dobbins, who I love J.K. Dobbins. You actually look. He wasn't as high on my board, and we're nitpicking, but you sold me on J.K. Dobbins, and I'm a believer now. My bold call of the year. For dynasty. My bold call of the year this year is that J.K. Dobbins will have more total overall all-purpose yards than Mark Ingram in Baltimore this year. It's a bold call, though. It's not something I'm betting on. And to have Joe Burrow and Teddy Bridgewater, I like Joe Burrow as my QB2, but not as my QB1. DK Metcalf was a reach. Calvin Ridley, fine. You can defend it. I can't defend it. I don't love this team, man. I'm sorry. For the 101 gift with Christian McCaffrey, I think he made a few grievous errors.
But that could also, the 101 with McCaffrey could also erase a lot of the mistakes you're pointing out. Now, I'm going to give you a slightly different take on it. And again, I agree. I don't like the players he passed on, but he ended up with good players. So taking away that he gets an F for value, but he still has a B+ plus team but it's all projection. We're projecting Calvin Ridley to get to the elite tier. We're projecting DK Metcalf to take over on the proverbial we.
Of course.
DeAndre Hopkins is falling, but he's still one of the best receivers in the whole group. Gronk, we think he's going to be a part-time Antonio Gates type of player. So his core is still good players, but what you gave up to get there is probably an undervalue. So, like I said,
it's fragile.
Yes. My favorite pick of his, he sniped me on Benny Snell as I have James Conner. So I think his end game was strong with McKinnon, Snell. Both of those players were guys I was targeting. And obviously the worst pick is not the worst player, but passing on DJ Moore for DK Metcalf. So I'm going to say Metcalf is his worst pick.
I'm in agreement there. I mean, I agree with you. I think Benny Snell, reports out of Steelers camp is that he's going to be the clear backup if anything happens to James Conner, there's a very high likelihood there. Jerick McKinnon, man, look, in PPR leagues, I think that he's a really good bet late in your draft. I'm kind of a McKinnon truther.
San Francisco running game. It's going to be a good running game. Just take the cheapest guy.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't argue about his finish. He had a strong finish. I like it. I just think he could have done better with his value. And you know what the worst part about passing on value, Al, is? You give value to your opponents. And that's the worst part of passing on value.
It's a double whammy. You give up value, and then someone else gets value. And in this case, it was Stacy. That's why I like to draft next to you, Shane, because you always give me all that value.
Fudge. All right.
The grand finale. My team.
Grand finale. So you chose this, Ezekiel Elliott overall as a sixth overall pick.
Sixth overall pick in a super flex. I was thinking that it was going to be either my choices were going to be Dak, Zeke, or Kamara. For a moment, I considered CEH there. But at the end of the day, this is an important league to me, and I think CEH is great. I don't want to anchor my team to CEH. I want to, if he's like my second or third running back, or if I'm picking late in the first, it's fine. But I want to rock. And even though I don't expect Zeke to be the dominant Zeke, and I certainly expect Tony Pollard to get more playing time this year, I just think that it's one of those, the thing that we've adopted as our edict on the show. You can't win your draft at this first round, but you certainly could lose it. And I think that Zeke is going to fill that void. He's not going to allow me to lose my draft.
I like Zeke here. Look, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. If it goes in our Superflex League, if it goes CMC, Saquon Barkley, and I'm sitting there at 3, it's going to be a tough decision. Now, I don't know which way I'm going to go yet, but it's going to be a tough decision between Ezekiel Elliott, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson. So for you to get him at the 6th spot, I like it. And you know what I like the most, actually, Al, is I like how you've constructed your team. Okay. So I like that you've got Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott, which essentially means you're getting like 95% of the points in that what's projected to be an elite Dallas offense. We talked about Amari Cooper before. We've talked about CeeDee Lamb. The right answer is you take Dak Prescott.
Exactly.
Exactly. And so I love that. James Conner worries me a little bit, but I think clearly you wanted to get. Let's just talk about it for a second.
Yeah. Okay. So James Conner has been a polarizing pick. What I like to do, Shane, is I like to look back to last year's ADP. I do this exercise every year, and there's some great articles about it too, all over the internet. And what you do is you look at last year's ADP, you look at this year's ADP, and you say what's changed. James Conner was a fringe first round pick, and in fact, in high stakes drafts, he was going as like the 10th overall pick. What's changed? Nothing. There's no threat to his workload. It's still Benny Snell and a 4th round rookie. Ben Roethlisberger's coming back healthy. James Conner's coming back healthy. I'm getting James Conner in the 3rd round. Everyone says, oh, he's an injury risk. Sure, but everyone's an injury risk in the 3rd round. I mean, every running back. I don't think James Conner is going to get hurt. Just because he's been hurt twice doesn't mean he gets hurt more than anyone else. So I have him earmarked as a line of demarcation as the last workhorse running back. I don't even have Melvin Gordon in that tier anymore because late word out of camp is that Philip Lindsay's going to get 35-40% of the work. So
it's not even late. Roster Watch was talking about it weeks ago.
Yeah, there was players I liked better than James Conner at the 3-6. I liked Kenny Golladay better. I liked some of the QBs that went. But I said, if I don't, this is the advantage of doing drafts since March, like you and I do, is that you reach on the running back later so you can catch some value later. And I think that's exactly what happened in the 4th and 5th round. and 6.
Yeah, and look, full disclosure. I mean, look, as a fantasy analyst, I try to do my best to completely remove my biases. But we're people, we're humans, right? We have our biases. I had a lot of James Conner last year, and he burned me a lot. So maybe that's just in the back of my head, and I'm having.
But you took him in the first round, second round.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think it was a second round pick last year. So yeah, I mean, look, you want to get a stud running back, and if James Conner stays healthy, man, if Ben Roethlisberger stays healthy, could the Steelers be the Steelers of 2018? I don't know, but there's certainly that potential.
How about this? Here's a good way to look at it. Who would you be? Would you be? Everyone was high on the Browns offense and low on the Steelers right now, but would you be even close to shocked if the Steelers come back and are the best team in the AFC, or like the 2 seed? Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, we forget, because it's been a little bit, how potent that offense can be. And, James Conner is the 3-down workhorse. So let's not belabor the point there. The real point of controversy in my draft, in the draft room, what set everyone on fire, was that I took Odell Beckham over Allen Robinson. I kind of agree with the room, so I'm not going to defend myself. Yeah. This was one of those situations where I have Allen Robinson in the Beat Chris List league. It was a high stakes league, so I wanted a little diversification. But after I was drinking a little bit during this draft, never drink and draft, people. So yes. I realized after, I have Odell Beckham in other leagues too. But here's my main defense of that. I think Odell Beckham has wide receiver 1 overall upside. I do not think Allen Robinson has that. I think Allen Robinson has top 10 upside, but obviously the floor for Robinson is way higher than Odell Beckham's, who could be, benched or out of the league. I mean, obviously not by week 7. I mean, he's a more volatile player.
Odell Beckham, he in his range of outcomes is wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy football. It's in his range of outcomes. As of right now, he's healthy. You came back and you got Baker Mayfield, who I'm very bullish on this year. I'm trying to get as much Baker Mayfield, especially in these Superflex 2 quarterback leagues, as my QB2, because he's falling to the 7th freaking round. Look, I get it. And the thing is that if this was your one team, your one draft of the year, you probably wouldn't have gone Odell Beckham, but you're going for upside. I don't love that pick, Al, and just being honest with you, I think that's probably my least favorite pick on your team, because again of who else was on the board.
You like Baker, so here's my question to you. Yeah, here's my question: that don't you think? I know usually a team's success is greatly tied to the quarterback. I'm not going to deny that, but don't you think, unless Odell Beckham has one of those crazy seasons, the Browns just cannot go anywhere? I mean, they're not going to. Baker could be as good as he wants, but if he's dinking and dunking to Austin Hooper, to Kareem Hunt, to Jarvis Landry, they'll be fine. But if they're going to win that division and or even get a wild card berth, if they need Odell Beckham to be the downfield guy, and if that does happen, and you said you like Baker, I mean, Odell Beckham is going to end up looking like a sharp pick at that point.
Do you remember last year when Odell Beckham was traded to the Browns and Baker Mayfield was coming off his rookie season, and Baker Mayfield was being drafted as a 5th overall quarterback off the board? We had 0 Baker Mayfield last year because we thought that was too high. But look, the reality is he's probably not going to be as terrible as he was last year. They've got an improved offensive line. Odell Beckham is healthy. All reports right now is that Jarvis Landry is going to be ready for week 1 with that hip. We had Dr. Jesse Morse on the show about a month and a half ago talking about that if he's coming back, and because it's more of a family issue, which is causing the hip. It's not like a player injury issue. He's not worried about his ability to recover.
You know what? You just said though,
it can be good. It can be yes.
You just said something that just struck me as eerie, to tell you the truth. Is that you said we had Baker Mayfield as the like he was going as last year's like QB like 14, right? But no, I'm saying, but once Odell was traded, he got pushed up to 5. Doesn't that sound a lot like Kyler Murray and his bump that he's getting because of DeAndre Hopkins?
That's an excellent point, and things don't always work out in the first year. You're right.
Second year.
Kyler Murray.
Oh, you mean right with the. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
no, that was just eerie. But yes, let's just finish out my team. So I caught some heat in there for taking Jonathan Taylor in the 5th round.
Really?
There's been no all offseason I've beat the drum that Jonathan Taylor is a bad 3rd round pick because Marlon Mack is there. He's the veteran. He's going to be splitting touches. But I took a little bit of a turn in philosophy about 2-3 weeks ago, and for good reason. The whispers started coming out that the coaches usually say, "Oh, it's the veteran's job. The rookie has to learn this. The rookie has to do that." That's not what I've been hearing. What's been coming out of Colts camp is we're going to ride the hot hand. To me, that's code for
Jonathan Taylor, baby.
Well, code for the veteran is not a lock to be the guy. And if we're talking about just if they're really going to ride the hot hand, we already know who's going to have the hotter hand. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
So if you have to take him in the second round as your RB2, yes, there's a lot of risk there. But in the 5th round Superflex, so it's really like the 3rd round of drafts, and is my RB3, that's where I want to take the risk. Now, could it bottom out completely? Sure, but I feel like that's the one that can win me the league, that pick.
Oh, yeah. You can't go wrong with that. I think Jonathan Taylor's going to be an absolute beast, to your point.
And he may not be.
He's going to be, Al.
Yep.
He's going to be. But you know what? It might be a Miles Sanders type thing where he doesn't start to really pick up until later in the season. But I think that your team is strong enough around you to get you through that first half of the season. And be able to weather that. And then if you're rocking Jonathan Taylor in your fantasy playoffs, watch out, man. Watch freaking out.
I mean, if I had to ask you any player going outside of the top 24, so outside of the top 2 rounds, that's most likely to make a jump as a 1st round pick next year, I mean, Jonathan Taylor is the obvious answer, right?
Of course, man. Of course. Right. I mean, like shit. Like I in Dynasty now, after the whole Damian Williams thing, CEH, he's got to be your one just because we got to put a premium on this year. But before that happened, man, I was going to bat with Jonathan Taylor's 101 pick in Dynasty drafts because I think he's going to have an effective role this season. I think he's going to help you win your fantasy playoffs this season, and he's an absolute stud. Absolute stud. So,
all right, give me best pick, worst pick, and then give me a grade. Be honest.
I got to go worst pick, Odell Beckham, just for the reasons we discussed before. Not horrible, but I'm worried about your wide receiver core a little bit. You got Odell Beckham, who's kind of, we're not sure. We think he's going to be good. Terry McLaurin, I love, but after that, your wide receiver 3 is Deontay Johnson, which, again, he could be good, but we're still projecting out a little bit. Worst pick, man.
You just said it was Odell, my worst pick.
Yeah, best pick. I'm going to go, you know what? Forget. I'm going to go to bat for you, brother. I'm going JT, round 5, your best pick. I'm going to give you a B+. It's going to be Stacy Seslowski's League to Lose. She's going to crush it.
Wait, hold on. Don't you want to give me my my own grade here? I'm going to go. I think my best pick, what's it called? I like the Jonathan Taylor pick too. My worst pick, I would have to say is it's so hard. There's so many good picks here. It's so hard. A lot of good picks. No, I disagree because Odell can win it, but yeah, I would have rather had Allen Robinson there. But man, I hear you that my wide receiver 3 is going to be one of those headache things that I try to avoid. So good. I'll give myself a B-, teetering on C+, just based on that I didn't follow my own philosophy of a rock solid wide receiver core. So go ahead. So
you're being a little tough on yourself. I give yourself a B to a B+. I gave you a B to a B+. It's going to be close. You're going to be in playoff contention.
So sum up the draft, Shane. Sum it up. A few words to sum it up, and then we'll
sum
it
up.
We'll get out of it.
The narrative of this draft is make things interesting, make it a super flex, add a tight end premium element to it, and make it so that it's hard on the other drafters. Be the most prepared person in your draft. Go to dfsarmy.com, get our draft kit, and that will help you win your draft.
Yes, yeah, and you said it's her league to lose, but I think she'll do a good job at losing it, so it won't be a problem.
I'll help you out, Stacey. Don't worry about it. So again, guys, go to your app store, go and download the Thrive Fantasy app. Make sure you use the promo code FLEX when you sign up, and for your first deposit of deposit $20 or more, and they will give you a $20 deposit bonus. Thrive Fantasy, use promo code FLEX. So, Al, how do the good people find you, my friend?
On Twitter at Alan Seslowsky, AlanSeslowsky, or on Instagram at Allen Fantasy Football, LinkedIn, everywhere else. I'm all over. I'm on TikTok, the whole deal.
He's everywhere. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. Go to our YouTube page. Check out the Flex Network on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram. We're all over the place. Don't forget to go to your app store right now. Download Thrive Fantasy. Use promo code FLEX. And deposit $20. They will match $20 deposit. And There we go, baby. We're going to get you going. We're 2 weeks away, Al. That is very exciting. So less than 2 weeks. So for Flex Matt, for Al, we are the Flex Network.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network.